and welcome back to eLife. Today we have Bill with us, who had worked previously as a marketing manager at CNFC. So welcome, Bill. Welcome to eLife, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So as I said, for I think everyone most of the people, if I say CNFC, CNCF, I'm sorry, would be a very new term. So could you please elaborate what actually is a CNCF?
Yeah, so CNCF is one of the largest open source foundations in the world. Now, CNCF is a sub foundation specifically focused on cloud computing. So it hosts over 100 different open source projects that are focused on making cloud computing more reliable, easier to manage, and more efficient.
Okay, so can you elaborate on the part of cloud computing and open source, so that a general person also could understand what these two terms mean?
Sure. The joke about cloud computing is it's really just somebody else's computer that you're using. And that's kind of true. So what I think cloud computing is being able to leverage compute without having to actually manage the physical hardware or the resources. The most popular cloud computing providers are Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Azure from Microsoft. And they run huge data centers that have racks and racks of computers. And what the cloud allows you to do is to programmatically or with an API manage those computers to run software on them. And it allows you to kind of skip over the steps of racking and stacking all the computers, setting up the network. You're basically outsourcing all of that hard work to somebody else so that you can focus on higher level problems. And what open source is it's a way, it's a lot of different things, but I guess it's at the very core, just like a software license. And what it basically means is the ability for anybody to use and contribute to the software in any way that they want. And a lot of the most popular software programs in the world are based on an open source model. So for example, Linux, the operating system that I was talking about, MySQL, and lots of other database technologies. Open Office, which is a replacement for Microsoft Word. Most of the front-end frameworks that you're using, like React, that came out of Facebook. A lot of modern computing technology is powered by open source, and we're really seeing it driving the next wave of innovation in software development.
Okay, so I have just a little doubt in my mind. Is CNCF different from cloud computing, or is just a part of cloud computing?
So CNCF is a foundation hosting these open source projects which power cloud computing. So there's lots of different ways to run cloud computing. For instance, there's closed source solutions, for example, like VMware. There's other open source solutions like OpenStack. There's multiple ways to run a cloud. CNCF just hosts a certain set of projects that are one way of running cloud computing.
Okay. Okay, so as you told about the role, so why it is really important, or what is the use of CNCF in the industry today, or how large this industry is today and could be in future?
Yeah, absolutely. So CNCF powers some of the largest applications in the world. And in fact, you're probably using a CNCF technology today without using it. So for instance, if you're using any Apple products, their iCloud is powered by Kubernetes. If you've ever used SoundCloud, you're using Prometheus. If you are using Visa or MasterCard, you're also using technologies that come out of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It's really everywhere, but it's an infrastructure software, so it's not something you interact with or care about or have to worry about on a day-to-day basis. In the same way, you don't have to think about where your electricity is coming from. You just turn on the light switch or plug your computer into the socket, right?
Yes.
So I would say a lot of cloud computing technology is similar to that, where you don't have to think about it, but it powers really everything that we do on a day-to-day basis.
Currently, how much big this industry is, and in future, if we say, no, what would be the level of this industry?
Yeah, so the cloud computing industry overall is just massive. Like literally trillions of dollars are being invested into it, and we don't really see a slowdown in that growth. Even at the large scale, like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, their clouds, even in a $1 trillion run rate, are continuing to grow 30% year over year, 40% year over year. So I think it is a very good place to jump into because there is so much money going into it. Because that was we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic,
Mm.
like so much of our world is run and relies on digital services, and I think that the importance of cloud technologies is only going to increase because of that.
Okay, so it's like we could say that cloud computing field is very huge, but the people hasn't realized that it's that huge because we cannot see it, directly working.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I guess you can see it working. Like this video call right now
Mm.
is being powered by Google Cloud. So
Mm.
really, everything on your phone is probably cloud computing. You are using it every single day. You're just not thinking about it.
So let's let's help people to think about it. So my question to you now would be what is the roadmap of getting into cloud computing, and what are the different portfolios or services that one individual can provide?
Yeah, so there's many different ways to get into cloud computing. Really just depends on what your background is. And I guess,
Hmm.
for example, like a lot of people think you have to be a coder to get into the cloud computing industry, but like every other industry, there's roles for everyone. So I actually myself don't know how to code, but I'm working more on the community management, the events, and the marketing side. And so if you like writing rather than coding, there's also a place for you. If you like organizing people and events, there's a place for you. It really depends on like what specifically you want to do. On the like coding side, the great thing about open source is there's really no barrier to entry. Anybody that wants to can contribute to an open source project. Now, to get started in, I guess, cloud native and open source, a great place to start is in the Kubernetes project. And if you go to the website, so it's k8s.dev, so k8s.dev, then you'll have a lot of great resources about how to get started contributing to the Kubernetes project.
Okay. So, if I ask you, what are the prerequisites or what are the basic certifications? First, we will talk about marketing as you are in marketing. So, what are the prerequisites or what are the certifications that if one or have or an individual have that and that will help them into getting into cloud computing?
Yeah, definitely. So the CNCF actually offers a variety of different certificates around cloud computing. The most beginner and entry level one is the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Associate certification, and that's a good one to show like your entry level knowledge of the cloud computing industry. On top of that, they have more advanced ones like the Certified Kubernetes Administrator, Certified Kubernetes Application Developer, and Certified Security Kubernetes Security Specialist. Outside of the CNCF, there's also a variety of different certifications that you can take. Most of them are going to be coming from the cloud providers, so Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. They each provide their own certification path based on what you're interested in.
Okay. So, so you, as you said, CNCF, they themselves provide certifications, so we can do
Yeah.
Okay. So, what are the tools or techniques one should be aware of, or if he or she is getting started with cloud computing, what would be your the perception or your viewpoint on that, these are some of the basic tools that anyone who wants to get into cloud computing or CNCF must know.
Yeah, so I think this one is actually harder to answer than you think, because the thing about
Yes.
technology is that it always changes.
Hmm.
The people that were working on a certain technology, well, every single day people are coming out with new technologies in open source. So if I recommend you just one project or tool today, it may change for you. I'd say the most important thing is to continue to keep on learning. What you learn the foundational principles. I think that's the great thing about a degree is it should teach you kind of the theory and the fundamentals behind why ideas and things work the way they do, and then you can apply those to different technologies. I mean, if we're talking about like technologies that are hot right now, is like obviously Kubernetes, but then also things in like the observability space and monitoring. So things like Prometheus and OpenTelemetry. GitOps is also a big topic around things like Flux and Argo, and also things like security and service mesh like Cilium.
Okay. So, as you said before this, that you do not know how to code, but you are into CNCF, and like you said, like it's a myth that people think you should know to code. So, can you just elaborate on your journey of joining CNCF, and whether as you said, if you don't know coding, it's absolutely okay, but did you really faced any kind of problem while joining if you didn't have any prior coding knowledge?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely like challenging. It's easier if you can write your own code and do your own things. But it's certainly possible. I guess what I always did, I think the cool thing about coding and really like the whole cloud native industry is that there are so many resources available for you to learn. Everything that I learned is basically from blog posts, YouTube videos, and listening to podcasts.
Okay.
So I really kind of and talking to other people in the industry. I think those are the important things, and it goes back to what I said before: is the most important skill is to be able to keep on learning. It's what allowed me to get into cloud native and really advance my career within cloud native too.
Okay, so as you said, you learned from podcasts and blog posts. So could you suggest some of them to the learners or the enthusiasts who want to get into cloud computing?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably my favorite podcast in the cloud native space is the Kubernetes podcast from Google. I'm a longtime listener and I've listened to every single episode that they have. It's one that I really like, and it dives into the technology. Another good one, if you want to get more on the technical side, is Kubelist from the folks at Replicated. They do really good technical deep dives into specific projects. And then a third one, if you want to go more on the business side and understanding how the business works, is the Business of Cloud Native by Emily O'Meara, and she's a marketing consultant in the cloud native space. So I guess you have your marketing side, your technical side, and your overview of the community as the three podcasts that I'd recommend.
So, one last question is, uh, do you have any message for all the enthusiasts or someone who has just started his journey or her journey into cloud computing, or any kind of message for their future?
Yeah, I would say uh, always continue to learn, get involved in some type of open source project. Not only will it boost your skills, but you also meet a lot of people that are helpful along the way. I can tell you every single job I've gotten, except for my first one to get into cloud native, is because of other people I already knew in the industry. I didn't really have to apply to jobs because I already knew people at the companies I wanted to go to and could just talk with them. And that's the great thing about open source is you are interacting and engaging with so many people from different companies that allows you to build up this network in a very organic way. So that's, I guess, my two pieces of advice.
Okay. So yeah, thank you, Bill, for joining us today, and it was a really lovely and powerful session. And I hope it will help all the learners or the enthusiasts who want to get into cloud computing. You know, your experience and your advices and the podcast that you suggest would definitely help them. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.